The young man who would have his eyes opened. Once upon a time there lived a youth who was never happy unless he was prying into something that other people knew nothing about. After he had learned to understand the language of birds and of beasts, he discovered, accidentally, that a great deal took place under the cover of night which mortal eyes never saw. From that moment he could not rest till he had seen these hidden secrets were laid bare to him, and spent the whole time wandering from one wizard to another, begging them to open his eyes, but found that none would help him. At length he reached an old magician named Mana, whose learning was greater than that of the rest, and who could tell him all he wanted to know. But when the old man had listened attentively to him, he said warningly, "My son, do not follow after empty knowledge, which will not bring you happiness, but rather evil. Much is hidden from the eyes of men because they did not know everything. Their hearts would no longer be at peace. Knowledge kills joy. Therefore think well what you are doing, or some day you will repent it. But if you will not take my advice, then truly I can show you the secrets of the night. Only you will need more than a man's courage to bear the sight." He stopped and looked at the young man, who nodded his head, and the wizard continued, "Tomorrow night you must go to the place where, once in 7 years, the Serpent King gives a great feast to his whole court. In front of him stands a golden bowl filled with goat's milk, and if you manage to dip a piece of bread in this milk and eat it before you are obliged to fly, you will understand all the secrets of the night that are hidden from other men. It is lucky for you that the Serpent King's feasts happen to fall this year, otherwise you would have a long wait for it. But take care to be quick and bold, or it will be the worse for you." The young man thanked the wizard for his counsel, and went his way firmly to carry out on his purpose, even if he paid for it with his life. When night came, he set out for a wide, lonely moor, where the Serpent King held his feast. With sharpened eyes he looked eagerly all around him, but could see nothing but a multitude of small hillocks that lay motionless under the moonlight. He crouched behind a bush for some time until he felt that midnight could not be far off, when suddenly there rose in the middle of the moor a brilliant glow, as if a star was shining over one of the hills. At the same time, all the hillocks began to writhe and to crawl, and from each one came hundreds of serpents that made straight for the glow, where they knew they should find their king. When they reached the hillock where he dwelt, which was higher and broader than the rest, and had bright light hanging over the top, they coiled themselves up and waited. The whir and confusion from all the serpent houses were so great that the youth did not dare to advance one step, but remained where he was, watching intently all that went on. But at last he began to take courage, and moved on step by step. What he saw was creepier than creepy, and surpassed all he had ever dreamt about. Thousands of snakes, big and little and of every color, were gathered together in one great cluster around a huge serpent, whose body was as thick as a beam, and which had on its head a golden crown from which the light sprang. Their hissings and darting tongues so terrified the young man that his heart sank, and he felt he should never have courage to push to a certain death, when suddenly he caught sight of the golden bowl in front of the Serpent King, and knew that if he had lost his chance, it would never come back. So with his hair standing on end and his blood frozen in his veins, he crept forward. Oh, what a noise and whir arose among those serpents! Thousands of heads were reared and tongues were stretched out to sting the intruder to death. But happily for him, their bodies were so closely entwined with one another that they could not disentangle themselves. Like lightning, he seized a bit of bread and dipped it in the bowl and put it in his mouth and dashed away as if fire was pursuing him. On he flew as a whole army of foes were at his heels, and he seemed to hear the noise of their approach growing nearer and nearer. At length his breath failed him, and he threw himself almost senseless on the turf. While he lay there, dreadful screams haunted him. He thought that the Serpent King with a fiery crown had twined itself around him and was crushing out his life. With a loud shriek he sprang up to do battle with his enemy, when he saw that it was the rays of the sun which had weakened him. He rubbed his eyes and looked around, but nothing could he see of the foes of the past night, and the moor where he had run into such danger must be at least a mile away. But it was no dream that he had run hard and fast, or that he had drunk from the magic goat's milk. When he felt his limbs, he found them whole. His joy was great that he had come through such perils with a sound skin. After the fatigues and terrors of the night, he lay still till midday, but made up his mind he would go that very evening into the forest to try what the goat's milk could really do for him. And when it would now be able to understand that he had been a mystery to him. And once in the forest, his doubts were set at rest, for he saw that no mortal eyes had ever seen before. Beneath the trees were golden pavilions with flags of silver all brightly lighted up. He was still wondering why the pavilions were there when a noise was heard among the trees as if the wind had suddenly got up. On all sides, beautiful maidens stepped from the woods into the bright light of the moon. These were the wood nymphs, daughters of the Earth Mother, who came every night to hold their dances in the forest. The young man, watching from his hidden place, wished he had 1,000 eyes in his head, for 2 were not nearly enough for the sight before him. The dances lasting till the first streaks of dawn. Then a silvery veil seemed to be drawn over the ladies, and they vanished from sight. But the young man remained where he was till the sun was high in the heavens, and then he went home. He felt that day to be endless, and counted the minutes till night should come, and he might return to the forest. But when he last got there, he found neither pavilions nor nymphs, and though he went back many nights after, he never saw them again. Still, he thought about them night and day, and ceased to care about anything in the world, but was sick to the end of his life with longing for the beautiful vision. And that was the way he learned that the wizard had truly spoken, that he said, "Blindness is man's highest good."